Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering The Hunger Games, Book 1, The Hunger Games, Chapters 7, 8, and 9. In these chapters, the tributes have to prove how good they will be in the arena, and then they have a very public interview, and everything is strained. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Are you coming to the tree? They strung up a man, they say, who murdered 3. Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where a dead man called out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you?
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
All right, Rashawn, tell me how you were feeling about this section. I want to hear all about it.
I am really, really, really enjoying this book. I really am. Like, all right.
I forgot the word for book, everybody.
No, the pause was because I wasn't sure if I wanted to say these chapters, and then I decided to just be like, fuck it. No, I'm just going to say the book, the whole thing.
Nice.
Yeah, I did. There's something about, and we'll get into it when we get into it, but I cannot overstate how much I appreciate going from how enraged Katniss is rightfully at this entire fucking charade, but then how she gets caught up in these moments.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's something about that is just really resonating with me. It feels like it's speaking to something that we all kind of are familiar with, though this is an extreme, obviously, an extreme case. But that sort of how we can go from, righteous anger and then be swept up with things that would be characterized as like trivial, surface, superficial, unimportant, novelty, whatever, right?
Right.
That just is really doing something to me. It's just really getting me.
It's kind of like clarifies how everybody in the Capitol could get so that they forget that there are people involved, and like, there's obviously, they remember, like, I'm not trying to say that they don't know that there are people involved and provide them an excuse. Exactly. I'm just trying to say that we do this thing where stuff becomes like sort of symbolic almost, and we divorce it from the human element.
Yes.
To make things more like easier to digest.
Right.
And I think that I like to see everybody can get kind of caught up in forgetting the reality,
Exactly, because it would be very easy to write this book and make it only the people of the Capitol who are swept away with the spectacle and the pageantry. The fact that she has our heroine also getting swept up, even if it's just momentary, shows like how quickly it can happen and how it can happen to anybody, even to the people who are about to be chewed up by the machine,
Yes.
She's like literally about to be fed to this fucking, what's the word? The thresher or whatever, that goes through the field.
Yeah, yes.
Yep. She's about to be fed into that, and she is on stage in this beautiful gown, getting this feedback from an audience that she despises, but they're loving her in this moment, and she can't, you know what I mean? Next thing you know, she's swirling and giggling. But yeah, no, I just am really enjoying this so much more than I thought I was. I think I said that last time too, but yeah, I am still like, shit. Okay, we're really doing something here.
Yeah, and like I made the comparison last time to like social media and how weird that can be. And I feel like this is another example of just how you can start to believe your own hype and buy your own hype. And if you manage to like create a niche for yourself in some kind of content creation, influencer, whatever, and you have enough people around you just constantly hanging on your every word, you can begin to really overestimate how much they will stick by you in a real way. And then something happens and all of a sudden they are gone. And it's like, oh, that was not really real. That was just, it's on a whim. Which
I thought it was something else entirely. It turns out it's
right.
not
I thought
that
it was
at
about
all.
me, and it really isn't. It's about them and the way they see you and whether they can assign what they want to you. And once you stop being the person that they can assign a certain thing to, they lose interest in you because you were serving a purpose for them, really.
Yep.
So yeah,
Sobering.
right. Like also like talking about just losing touch with things. We all, I think, have fallen into the trap of forgetting that there are people behind usernames sometimes and getting really fucking vicious and then stopping and being like, oh God, that's a person who's about to like read this incredibly snarky thing I just wrote because it was simply funny. And
Right.
I don't really even mean it. It was just a joke that was right there. And I felt like I had to, like, how could I not? And then you step back and you're like, oh, really easily. I could just not, like the way I wouldn't if they were standing in front of me, actually.
How about that?
I find myself in that position more than I like. But anyway, so let's back up to the beginning of chapter 7. Katniss has some nightmares. And the redheaded girl who is the Avox is mixed in with her mother in her depression and Prim starving and her father dying in the mine again. And she wakes up and is like just in the shower, just punching buttons, not knowing what's going to happen with any of this. And she winds up quite lemony and is just like, I guess, sure. I guess I'm lemonade. There is something about like getting into the shower and having it be a real game of chance.
This really made me laugh
much.
because I had been and we talked about, right, how impressed we were with this bathroom from the last chapter. And then just seeing what happens in this bathroom if you're not paying attention, how quickly it turns against you.
It turns on you, man. Like, that is too much thought to go into. Ugh.
It's like, maybe I don't want this complicated bathroom after all. I'm not like first thing in the morning. I'm not. No.
Yeah, like it needs to have like an automatic mode for the days that you're super tired, and that way you don't have to make any
presets.
Presets. Exactly. Preset. That's a good one. I bet it does too. She just doesn't know how to work it. That's my headcanon for that.
The other thing too that's recurring is how much she fucking eats anytime food is on the table. Like she is stuffing her like this morning she stuffs herself till she feels sick because she just is already like not having a great time. But pretty much anytime food is being discussed, she is eating everything she can possibly eat until she can't fit another bite in. And it's not made, it's like a big deal isn't made of it every time, but it's mentioned, just like not so much that she feels sick after she's done eating isn't mentioned, but like exactly what she's eating. She had this, and then she had that, and then she had this, and then she had that. And you're reading like, God damn, girl.
Yeah.
But you have to, it constantly reminds me of where she's coming from. And how little she had and how hard she had to work for all of her food, for her and her family. And now there's just more food than anyone could ever eat. or need
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
at every fucking sitting, at every
Yeah.
sitting, breakfast, every time. And it's almost grotesque.
Yeah,
And I say almost because I'm just
definitely.
trying like to not be like, you know, overly dramatic, but it's grotesque.
Yeah. And there's a whole thing later with like her life is on the line and these people are distracted by a roast pig that gets brought in so that she
Mm-hmm.
no longer is even on their fucking radar.
Mm-hmm.
And she's about to go die. And they are just
Yep.
still fixated on this fucking roast. And it's like just so disturbing and disgusting to her. And yeah.
There's a moment later on as well when she's actually at the interview where there's like, because apparently, and this comes up when she's talking about the host of the interview who's been doing it for 40 years, but yet looks exactly the same as he's always looked.
Yeah.
And we're reminded again that this is this culture in the Capitol is very, very about the aesthetics. And
Yes.
he makes a joke about eating a lot, but hopefully that he's not getting fat, because in this culture, you don't want to get old and you don't want to get fat. And she's thinking
Mhm.
about how in District 12, getting old is like, how did you manage that shit? You know, tell me your
Yep,
secrets.
yep.
And, you know, oh my God, you're a little fat. You got a belly. You must not be starving at night like the rest of us. Good on you. And it's
Mhm.
just such a, like an inversion of the values of where she comes from versus the values of the Capitol and the people who live there.
Yes. Yeah, the pettiness of what they are concerned about versus like basic survival shit.
Mm-hmm,
Like you said, it's about the aesthetics and it's just such a different set of priorities. So okay, she she has her lemony shower. She has her breakfast. Like you mentioned, there's just like so much food out. And she is thinking about the training and how this is all going to go. And they have to practice together. And, you know, you've got to like balance how much you show them with
mm-hmm.
actually like training and learning and making it so that you're managing to pick up some things but not show your hand,
Show your
so that
hand,
they're
yeah.
aware of what they could use against you or what your strengths or weaknesses are.
Yeah, and this is Hamish's big advice, right?
Mhm.
Also telling them that they need to present to everyone else as if they are very close.
Yes.
That's also going to be part of the strategy, to the point where we find out that both her and Peter are pretty much dressed the same this first morning.
Mhm.
She is not a fan. Katniss is not a fan.
She does
of this.
not like that.
No, not on board. And she is still, there's all this tension, right? Because this tension between the coaches, Haymitch and Effie, wanting to present them as though they're very close and they're in this together and they're good friends, versus the reality that only one of them can win. So this is you're how can you possibly be trying to get us to do this when, like, we're going to just all pretend like either I have to kill him or he has to kill me. Like, we're just going to pretend that's not part of this.
Right.
Which apparently is what we're doing. We're just pretending that's not fucking part of this. And
yeah, it's kind of fascinating that it's like the whole point of this is that you can't have unity, you can't work together, because the point of the Hunger Games is to remind everybody how like alone and helpless they are. And yet the audience seems to feed on the concept of working together and liking that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. There's just something about how that approach appeals and yet is the opposite of the point that is trying to be made by the games existing.
Yeah, it's
I
like
just find that
this
sort of
dissonance
fascinating.
between like the idea that if you are a citizen of this world, especially a citizen of the Capitol, even though it's important to remember that this game is broadcast across all the districts and other people watch it, and I'm sure it's and that's what something that I wish was talked about a little bit more, and maybe we will get more of that as the book goes on. I want to know how the people of the various districts receive this television program. Like when it's not, because in my imagination, the districts are small enough that whoever is picked is tribute, even if you don't know them really well, right? You, oh, that's so-and-so's kid, or they went to school with, they were in my son's class. You know, there's some sort of thin line of connection is my feeling about how the districts are laid out. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but they feel like they're big enough to be small cities, but small enough that like Katniss, for example, people knew who her dad was, and she went around trading with her father, and then her father died, but they know that was her father, right?
Right.
She didn't know Gale very well, but when Gale's dad died in the same explosion, she saw him getting the same medal that her family got for the sacrifice, right? So in my imagination, the districts will watch, and while they might feel a certain amount of terror for the tribute from their district that they know, how do they view the rest of them? Are the rest of them just kind of like detached entertainment, though? Because I don't know. I know the audience is mainly the in-person audience is just people from the Capitol, but I'm really curious how the games are received throughout this entire, what is the name of this country? Panem.
Yeah.
What is, how do the quotes, the people feel about this game? Because when you talk about the audience in the Capitol, at least, being attracted to this idea of a team, even though that's like against everything that the game stands for, you wonder if what they're responding to is almost like the teamwork is refuting what the games are saying is the thing. And almost like secretly that's what they long for as well, but not in like a way to cause any real action, if that makes any sense. Right. Like it's speaking to some part of them that they're not necessarily allowed to acknowledge. So they're not even sure why this I don't know if they're trying to make it look like Peeta and Katniss are an actual romantic couple, except for that last line that he drops at the end of the last chapter.
Right.
I don't, but something about, oh, these two kids are friends and they're in it to win it together, and I want to root for that. But do they even understand why they want to root for that? Like, do they understand what's missing in their lives that makes that appealing to them? You know what I mean? Does that make any sense?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's no. Like that's basically what my statement was about. How fascinating I found it that they're rooting for this thing when it's the antithesis of what the games are supposed to be about. Like, how do they reconcile that? Do they notice that they're doing that? Do they are they clocking it? Is it? I could see it being just put down to the drama of it all. You know what I mean?
Like rooting for a couple to make out in the hot tub at your reality show, right?
And just like treating it, I mean, the whole thing is supposed to be entertainment, which is part of why Katniss winds up with this wild grade that she gets a little bit later. But all right, let me get back into things because I'm just like getting sidetracked. Y'all know. So I need to come up with like some sound effect that I play when I am like, all right, time to get back on topic, because like the equivalent of spritzing me in the face with a squirt bottle to be those, like, no, stop with the tangents.
Did I share with you those TikToks where teachers are using bits from Renaissance as ways to get their kids' attention? We got to come up with one of those. And it'd be our way of like centering our attention.
That would work so well too if it was something from Renaissance. Yeah, we'll have to think about that, workshop that one. So this is when we have like the little bit where Haymitch is saying, well, which, like, do you guys want to be coached together or separately? And they both are like, why would you do it separately? And he's like, well, maybe one of you has a skill that you don't like want the other one to know about. And here it's very much a given for both of them that they will be trained together.
They do this thing here, this almost weirdly competitive, simultaneously hyping up the other, but then playing, you know, what do you call it? Downplaying their own skills.
Mm-hmm.
And it is really weird. And I don't know what to make it. Like, Peeta is just like, I got nothing to offer. I was a baker. Unless we're going to have a cake baking contest or whatever he says, you know, I got nothing. And she's all like, no, you're very, very strong. I've seen you throw sacks of flour around. And then he's like, well, you know, you've got the bow and arrow and I've seen you shoot squirrels right in the eye. And, but underneath this, right? Underneath this weird back and forth they're having, and she speaks to it a little bit later. He's been paying attention to her, and she has been paying attention to him in ways that she wasn't aware that she had been doing. And I don't know if you asked me this, I can't remember, or if you told me, but I feel like there's something where like maybe the reader is wanting them to be a couple. I don't know if they become a couple in the book, but I'm going to say very early, with nothing to go on, I don't think they're supposed to be a couple.
Why is that?
I can't put my finger on it yet, but like, and then the thing that he does at the end, I know we're jumping ahead, we said we wouldn't, but the thing he does at the end where he basically blurts out in his interview that he's in love with her, or at least she's who he would like to be with. I don't know if he doesn't really use the word love. Like, no. I don't think I buy that, y'all. And I guess I'll find out in a minute, right? Like, as soon as we're done, I'll probably read the next chapters. So I'll find out what's happening with this declaration that he makes, that he literally just blurts out. But, and I'm not even saying it's false. When I say I don't believe him, I don't know. Something.
It's really interesting. You have a very similar mindset to Katniss, it feels like, where she is extremely suspicious of his motivations all the time. Yeah. You know,
well, also, like, it doesn't take much for, you know, like, you know, the longer I'm in her head, the more I'm probably likely to be like, what is he up to? God damn it.
But I'm really wondering about that because, like, personally, my reaction to Katniss, especially the very first time I read this book, was, girl, you are way too suspicious. Like, I felt that Peeta was generally pretty sincere, but that's sort of what makes Katniss feel on edge, is the fact that he seems sincere and she has seen him lie so well before. It just makes it more difficult for her, knowing that, like, and yeah, if you start to buy the shit that he's trying to sell you, you're going to be in danger. So you have got to keep your guard up. And that's the part that I had difficulty keeping that perspective in mind. And I was just very much taking him at face value. And just being like, yeah, he just really is a nice guy who really does admire you. And, you know,
I don't know sort of if it's because I'm old, or because I'm generally jaded and cynical, or if it's just because the world has made me into I'm dead inside. I don't know exactly which one of those things is the thing, but I can't stop thinking about the fact that these two kids that I'm reading about and I'm watching them go through this thing together, you know, whether they like it or not, they are going through it together. I cannot stop thinking about how this whole thing is supposed to be leading up to them all murdering each other. Like, I can't shake it. It's paramount in my mind. So I'm reading everything through that lens, which is why I appreciate so much those moments when it's almost as if she forgets.
Yeah.
Because I don't fucking forget. Like, which is like the most untrue thing I've ever said. I forget everything all the time. You guys know that. But what I mean is, in the context of what's happening in this story, I can't stop thinking about that. That's what this is. And I'm curious if, as we get further into the book, if I ever shut up and we can get to the next couple pages, will I forget that's what this is? Because I don't know how much time we spend pre-games. You know, this is all the preamble. Maybe once the games start, I'm sure it'll be a very different energy of what I'm reading once they get into like the actual fucking, all right, here we fucking go. But for now, while we're doing all of this bells and whistles shit, all I can think of is, what the fuck? What the fuck?
I think that too, for me, the thing that was especially difficult the first time I read these, and, you know, reminder, I was like kind of coming off of Twilight when I started this series. There is such an emphasis on the like love triangle in Twilight that I grew obsessed with that being in everything, as I think is the point of a lot of like YA, is that, oh yeah, she's, you know, there are two guys interested in this girl. And I really assumed very much that that's the role Peeta plays, is the other like person in a love triangle in a YA novel. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do, but what I'm thinking is also, are you? It sounds like you're saying that's. I don't know if you mean to, but it sounds like you're saying that's not the role he's playing.
I'm not saying that. I'm telling you what I was, why I was giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Gotcha.
When I first read was because I immediately pegged, okay, it's going to be like between him and Gale.
Gotcha.
And because I was so sure it was going to be a love triangle between him and Katniss and Gale, I was never actually worried about Peeta. Because I'm like, well, he can't die because he's part of the love triangle, so we'll find a way out of this. Like, gotcha. that was my mentality. Oh, and okay. So I think that's part of why her being so constantly suspicious, I just wanted to be like, don't worry, Katniss, he can't die because he's part of the thing, so don't worry about it. Like, you know, just like, don't you realize that you're in a book in which there's a structure and you don't have to like be like this with him? Just a very,
don't you know you're in a book?
That's like literally the kind of thing that I was thinking, was just like, I'm so bored of reading about her being suspicious because I know he's sincere. So I just want her to catch up to the obvious thing that's really going on.
That's hysterical.
And so like, yeah, I had just very little patience for her suspicions of him. And every time that she had them, I was just like, whatever. Whatever. It's going to be fine. Stop it. You're being so dramatic. So anyway, I just wanted to explain. And I also like really appreciate that you have such a different like experience reading it, because I was sort of worried that you were going to have the same feelings about it that I did, and thus get really, really impatient, because Katniss can be a little frustrating sometimes, which is actually what I like about her character. But I was just worried that you were going to be like, oh my God, this girl is really trying my patience a little bit, you know?
So I'm like, I'm not having those problems.
That's good. That's good. So they decide that they are going to train together, and they have, like you said, the back and forth about what their skills are. And this killed me. You'll be living up in some tree eating raw squirrels and picking off people with arrows. You know what my mother said to me when she came to say goodbye, as if to cheer me up? She said, maybe District 12 will finally have a winner. Then I realized she didn't mean me, she meant you. Oh, she meant you, I said with a wave of dismissal. She said she's a survivor, that one. She is, says PETA. That pulls me up short. Did his mother really say that about me? Did she rate me over her son? I see the pain in PETA's eyes and know he isn't lying. That is fucking brutal.
Yeah.
This woman is a maniac. Yeah. How do you say that to your child?
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah, we thought she was terrible before, kids. Little did we know.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Considering like the context of this conversation, he has just, he is on his way to what everybody is assuming is his certain death, right?
Mm-hmm.
The odds are not in their favor. And this is one of the last things she says to her child. Like, how?
She sucks.
And
she sucks so bad.
And this triggers her, Katniss, to have this memory again back behind the bakery that day. And she ends up saying to PETA, to his, she's a survivor, she says, but only because someone helped me.
Mm-hmm.
And he then looks down to her hand, and she's holding a roll in her hands. And she thinks to herself that she knows that he remembers that day too. But he just shrugs and says people will be helping you in the arena and you'll be getting all kinds of sponsorships and shit like that.
Yeah.
So they have this moment of, she does not want to keep having these moments of connection with PETA. She's telling herself she's trying very hard to not have them, yet they keep happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then I thought that PETA would have really jumped on this moment of connection, but he doesn't.
No.
And I was just like, huh.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
I believe I just said, huh. That's what I think of it. That was my answer.
Touche.
So yeah, there's some more back and forth about, they'll be, trying to trip over to give you sponsorships too. No, they'll be giving them to you. And that goes back and forth. And then it drives PETA to say she has no idea the effect she can have, which she says to Haymitch. And Katniss is like, the fuck does that mean? Yeah. And that sends her spiraling. Like, she really fucks her head up.
To insult her, yeah. It's an interesting, I hear that and automatically assume it's a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
And she really does not seem to take it that way at all.
Yeah. Yeah. She goes immediately, like she has just said out loud, only because someone helped me. He says this comment, and in her brain, she's like, people helped me. Fuck, we were dying and no one helped me. And then she says, no one except PETA. And then she had to start thinking about everything she's done since her father died. And she starts doubting herself. Maybe they only helped me because they felt sorry for me. Mm-hmm. I thought that I was a tough trader and I was good at bartering. And I, brought things to people that I knew they wanted and liked. And she had told us about finding out that the baker liked squirrels and the mayor liked strawberries. But now she's just like, fucking, maybe they were just helping me out of pity because they knew I couldn't take care of myself and my family. And then she's indignant. Is he trying to suggest that I only get good deals because people feel sorry for me? Mm-hmm. And she takes a minute to think about that. And then she's like, well, sometimes they were kind of generous. But I thought that's because they really liked my dad. But then she's
she's thinking it's in memory of him, probably, and then no, like all over the place with this.
Yeah, it really is. Then she's like, and besides, my game is first class. No one pities me. All this in like seconds because of this one thing he said, and that shows us that she is not as self-assured as maybe she seems sometimes, because it does not take much to get her in her head to just really start bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
And that concerns me a little bit. It does. Like when I think about her, and to build on your joke about Peter earlier and how he can't die, right? So like, I'm fairly certain she's not going to die, at least not in this fucking book. Right? So I probably don't need to be that worried about how her game goes. But it does. It has me a little worried because, I mean, I don't know that much about the games yet, but it definitely feels like it is as much psychological as it is physical.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I would definitely say that.
Yeah.
There is a mental component to everything about the way the games are set up in, in the grand sense. And you will see as it's played how that plays into the game evolving while they are in the arena as well. Because
I keep forgetting it takes place in an arena as well, you guys. In my head, they get dropped off on like a little island or something. Because I can't picture an arena big enough to host whatever this is.
Well, and it's an interesting question because like the arenas of the past, we have heard how completely varying their landscapes and climates were. So there's nothing to say that the arena isn't on an island. Like we had a forest arena, we had a desert arena, we had a snowscape arena, Yeah,
with their technology, maybe it's like a giant holodeck and they can just make it be whatever, right? I'm trying to picture
yeah. I like that. But yeah, there's I that's part of what I am looking forward to, honestly, is you getting to see a little bit of the logistics of how the games work.
We do love the logistics on Unspoiled.
The logistics are fascinating to me. And in a way that's like this morbid curiosity, but nevertheless it's there. I want the info, which is I think part of what motivated her to write the prequel, because you get even more of that in there, because it's related to how the games originated and became what they are in these books. And I can understand if you have given that a lot of thought that you maybe just cannot resist writing a book entirely in that period. But also, I just don't think it was super necessary.
Oh, but, word.
It's the sort of thing, like I have really mixed feelings because I did find a lot of that information totally fascinating. But in a way that I was like, you could have just released like a history of the games or history of Panem, sort of like the World of Ice and Fire book, like something of that type, instead of a narrative novel. And I think it would have been more compelling to me to read it in that way.
Gotcha.
I just don't think that the novel works that well.
Aww.
But your mileage may vary. Okay, so I keep saying so. I'm sorry, everybody. So they go down to the group training. Oh, God.
You just did it anyway.
I can't.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh.
You do mean to laugh.
I do mean to laugh.
Liar.
It's true. I do.
Oh, my God. They go to the group training session I really, really enjoy that Haymitch has given them a suggestion of like some things that they could learn. And he mentions like, figure out how to tie some decent knots. So they go over to the knot making guy who is just like, no shit. You want to learn knots? Nice. Nobody ever comes over here.
I laughed so
And there's
hard
something
at
about
this.
that. I love just, that feels like a very real moment.
It really does. It really, really does. It's like going to a con and going to like the one booth that doesn't have anybody there.
Yeah.
Person getting all excited that you come over. When they show up to the training session, they're the last ones there, even though they're on time. Everybody was there a little early, and we get kind of a glance at some of the other tributes that are there, and there's like a pack of them that are from the lower number ones, like 1, 2, and I don't know if it's 3 or 4.
And 4, I think, is the other one. Yeah.
And they all are like, they are fucking ready. And it turns out that it's pretty common, even though it's completely against the rules, for wealthier districts to have what they call volunteers. And these are kids that have been basically raised just for this purpose, which I cannot even wrap my head around. I don't even know like how that happens. Like, I wish there was a little bit more detail. Like, are families just giving up their kids willingly? Is there some kind of benefit they get for in exchange, or is it just like privilege and pride or whatever? I don't know. But these kids are jacked. and
they are.
And they're also like exclusive and sort of elitist about the whole thing. Like, they know that they are like special, so they don't like to mingle with the lesser folks. And they have they're called career tributes, or just careers, I think she says. And then there's like people from other districts that are much poorer, and they all have a look to them as well. And Katniss is noticing that she's pretty small compared to everybody there, but against the poorer districts, even though she's smaller, she's much healthier, much more athletic because of the life that she lives. And these other kids, even though they're bigger than her, you can tell that they weren't fed enough, and they all have sort of like the sallow look, and you can tell that these are kids that are not strong.
Yes. And it's like also it's exercise from hunting, but also like she was gathering a lot of greens. Like there was a lot of healthful food amongst the foraging stuff. So that gave her diet a different sort of dimension, because I feel like it's sort of a similar thing to today, where the fresher the food, the more expensive it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and the careers, here's the comparison that I sort of make mentally. You know how you can have some people that are like upper middle class, and so they're technically like also working class, but their kids go to a prep school, and
yes, I do.
They have like the connects, so they go into the same shark pool as all the other kids in terms of like having to get ahead by hook or by crook, and then they do that with these like really distinct advantages. And it's just another way to separate these people who all should really be on the same side and all should be banding together against the system, but they have this like, oh, these people sort of riffraff, energy about them. And that when you're asking like, do they give their kids up willingly? Well, yeah.
Probably, right? Yeah.
Like with pride, like, yeah, go in there, and if you come out alive, great. If not, sucks to be weak, I guess. Like that kind of attitude.
Yeah. It's not that far-fetched when you put it like that.
Yeah.
Boy, that's depressing.
I know.
Mm.
So they do the knots. I just said so again. I love that PETA has a moment of using these like paints and stuff. It turns
the
out
camouflage
he's quite good at
table.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love this. And it's he's the trainer who does the camouflage station is also a baker.
Mhm.
And I thought for sure we were going to get a whole thing with PETA being like, "Oh wow, me too." But that doesn't happen. And
They get into kind of an argument. Well, not she like just changes the subject really quick, but he is talking about it, and she knows that he does a great job with the cakes because she has seen them, and Prue is super into them, but she just doesn't see like the practical applications of this. She says something like, "Oh, what are you going to paint them to death?"
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're going to frost them to death.
Yeah. But it is sort of like, I mean, this is a camouflage. Like, I feel like the practical aspect is right there on the sign for the table, but she just does not seem to buy that as a valid thing.
Yeah, she gets in. She's really like snarky. Well, I guess she's still coming off of that breakfast, huh?
She's super prickly in general. Like, that's just kind of who she is.
Mm. Sullen and hostile, I think is what they came. Yes. I was like, same girl, same.
Yeah, the sullen thing especially. I love the word sullen. It just gets a whole like facial expression in my head, you know.
Mm-hmm. I was a very sullen teenager. Pretty sullen adult too. Mm-hmm. So that's what they do for the next couple of days, is just doing this sort of round around this training room, and they pick up all these neat little skills. There's like a snare station, and there's something else cool that they stop and do. But again, avoiding the things that they would excel at. So she doesn't do any kind of like bow and arrow shit. He sticks away from the weights. And they have to keep this pretense of being really friendly and close throughout this whole ordeal. So we get a couple of moments of them like having breakfast and dinner and trying to have a conversation and look like they're enjoying each other's company.
Yeah, Peter's like, okay, now laugh like I said something really funny, and it's just like, oh god, this is so painful.
It is really hard to read, you guys. It's really hard to read. It's just not good for anybody involved. And she does sounds like a great story. She's like, "Have I ever tell you the time I was chased by a bear?" And
yes.
And he's just like, "No, you haven't, but it sounds fascinating." And she tries to tell the story, which should be a great story. And it says, all it says, though, we don't get the story, but it just says that PETA laughed and asked questions right on cue. He's much better at this than I am. So I don't know if PETA enjoyed the story or not. I feel like he had to have, because who won't enjoy a story about being chased by a bear? Right. But she doesn't believe he's enjoying it at all. And to hear her tell it, this is all a pretense. This is all part of the show. And I don't know if I believe her in this moment. Like, I didn't believe him sometimes. Sometimes I don't believe her. Sometimes I think she's getting it wrong. And I
would agree with that. Yeah.
Right. I think that, so this is her just being misreading, I think, letting her suspicion / low-key paranoia get the better of her in this moment, because you can't tell me that you're not going to enjoy a fucking story about getting chased by a bear. I just refuse to believe it.
I think that feeds that's like part and parcel with her not being great with people, is like she doesn't always read them correctly. You know, she has kind of an ungenerous read as her default a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's a really nice way to put it. An ungenerous read. That's really well put.
It's just, it's understandable, you know, it's understandable from where she's versus somebody like me, who I get cut off in traffic and I immediately do the whole like, well, maybe he just like didn't see me. Maybe he just, maybe I was in his blind spot. Maybe I really try and like come up with a narrative that will excuse behavior on instinct, you know, and give people an out. And she just isn't really like that. And why would she be? The world she has grown up in is not, that isn't a helpful like way to approach anything.
I think I was thinking about where I think I would fall, and I think I have a much more generous nature than I think that I have, if that makes sense. I agree. Like, yes. I would characterize myself as not having one, but I don't think that's true. And it sounds like it's weird to say that because it sounds like I'm doing a humble brag, and I don't mean it that way, you guys. Honestly, I don't.
It does not sound like that.
Good. I hope not. But I would say, oh, I'm like fucking think everybody's full of shit. But that's not really true. I mean, it is, but it's not. I think collectively,
the part of our personalities that really overlap. And I think it comes with being somebody who is constantly trying to make things easier for other people. And you know what I mean? Like, you just want to be like, give them excuses as to why they forgot this important thing that you have told them a bunch of times, even though it's super, super important to you. Yeah, well, you know, they don't get it. They don't remember. And in doing that, you like minimize yourself and what is important to you by just constantly giving a pass.
You know what? That's a really good distinction, because I think it's possible to be generous in that way that doesn't come from that. I just don't happen to have that. But I'd like to get there one day. You know, I think that I'd like to get to a place where that sort of generosity is coming from a much healthier and healed place than maybe it currently comes from. So that's a little note from me to me.
How about that?
All right. But also, I want to say, we meet this little girl, you guys.
Rue.
This little girl, Rue, and she is from District 11, I think. And she's so tiny. And she's black, or at least brown.
Yeah, she's black.
Okay. Yeah. And I love her. And it's because she's black. I'm sorry. It's who I am.
It's fine. This is fully expected and because
I didn't, you know, I never know when we get into something like this. I don't necessarily expect to see this, and you know, and it's fine if I don't, but it's really fucking cool when I do. So, you know, that was a neat little surprise. And I don't think, you know, it's funny because I have vague memories of pictures from the movie, right? And once I got to this part, I remember, I don't know who she is. I think you guys are probably going to be screaming at me, but I want to say I have a memory now of a very like light-skinned, possibly biracial girl that was in these movies. But like, I don't know who that was, and whether or not that person that I'm seeing in my head, I'm assuming is this character, but I don't know if that's entirely true. Maybe there's going to be more black people. I didn't see anybody else get mentioned this way of the tributes, but you know, maybe this, but I don't know if you're allowed to tell me if I'm right. And if there is an actress.
I'm going to look up the casting, because I got to be honest, I don't remember her being light skinned. So I'm going to just double check and see.
Oh, I wonder if I'm thinking of the wrong movie then. Maybe the picture in my head is, I picked up my phone like I was allowed to Google this shit. Let me put my phone down. Lord have mercy.
What are you doing?
I picked it right up like I was about to Google it. I'm not allowed to do that.
I think I would say that she's like medium. I'm gonna send you a picture because it's just
Okay.
it's not a spoilery picture or anything. It's the sort of thing where I feel like, you know, it depends so much on lighting. There are a variety of photos of her, and some of them she looks light skinned, and others she doesn't at all. So it's hard to say.
She's so cute.
She's really, really cute. She is a little older in the movie than I pictured her being, but yeah.
All right. So she's not necessarily light skinned, no. And this is not the picture I had in my head. So I'm thinking of a different movie.
Okay.
This isn't who I saw. I'm thinking of something completely different. Well, that's good then. That means I didn't even get a spoiler. I got spoiled on some other movie. I don't know. Well,
I'm going to send you a picture of her being interviewed as well, because she's in this like little dress and it's adorable.
Oh my God, this is too cute. This is not funny.
Isn't that so precious?
So our apologies. She's very, very cute though. No, she's like a light brown skin. So yeah, no, I don't know what movie I'm thinking of, but I can see the girl's face though in my head. I just don't know who it is. So,
and
but she's
Katniss has a really difficult time with this because Rue is reminding her of Prim so much.
Yeah, even the name, like, isn't her name a flower too?
Yes, Rue is a type of flower.
And she's like following Katniss and Peter around, which is just adorable. And I was curious who she came in with. I don't remember if we knew before, but then it turns out we get to see them in the interview portion. And this dude is not playing any games.
Yes.
He is not here for any of this show at all. And you know what? I am not mad about it.
I love it. Thresh is just...
Oh, Thresh. Yeah. That's his name. That's his name. Oh, yeah. No, he was not in.
No.
And I felt really bad because Katniss was like, well, if I looked like him, if I was that big, maybe I could get away with it too. And I was like, girl, it's not fair. It's not fair.
Yeah, I really enjoy her just envying. God, I wish I could just kind of be a dick and nobody would care, because she's looking at him going, yeah, there's going to be a lot of people who are wanting to sponsor him. Like, just look at this guy. I think she says that he's like at least 6'4". So, that's not nothing.
Answers all the questions with a yes or a no or just dead silence. And I'm like, oh my God.
That is passive resistance, and we love to see it.
We really do. So, and also once Rue is once Katniss is aware that Rue is there, like you said earlier, she's having difficulty because she reminds her so much of Prim, but also she starts thinking about things like, Katniss notices that she's good with plants, that she climbs fast, and that she has good aim. But also Katniss is like, how is that going to help her when some fucking 200-pound guy coming at her with a weapon? So now she's already imagining, like, how can this little girl take care of herself and defend herself, and what are her chances? And that's just, I don't know, like, to look at somebody. It's not something that any of us really would experience day to day, to look at someone and know that they are walking into something that they most likely will not walk out of. And you start to have to imagine all these different scenarios. Like, imagine like you're just like showing up for work and somebody's introducing you to the new person in the office, and like, oh shit, on Tuesday, that motherfucker is going to have to like fight a bear. Since I was talking about bears so much a minute ago.
That was unexpected.
But you know what I mean? Like, you start
yes, I get your point.
Looking at everybody through the lens of, will they make it? Will they survive? What are their skills? Can I beat them? It's hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah. This the whole introduction of all of these, I really wouldn't mind like backgrounds on each of them. Again, like a compendium of information. I would like to know more about all of the tributes and their lives.
Yeah, same. I'd be into reading about the districts and all that shit. So then this is like 3 days of training. Each day they deal with fucking Effie and Haymitch going through like every single thing they did all goddamn day, what the other tributes were like. I do want to mention when they first walk in on that first day, all the other tributes are salty as fuck because Peeta and Katniss are so popular and had such a fantastic chariot ride and everything.
They made a splash.
I did enjoy that.
So that we go then to the two of them like getting their individual moments in front of the judges.
The game makers.
That's
a fancy fucking title.
And she's gonna go last, which she already is aware isn't great. Yeah. She knows that they are going to be in the wrong headspace to pay any attention to her, and she is like preemptively irritated. But then she goes in and it's like even worse than she was expecting because of the arrival of this roast pig upstaging her terribly. So she had had a moment to get their attention and she sort of fucked it up by she's using a bow that doesn't have the same tension as her old one. She misses.
And she wasn't allowed to fucking practice. If Haymitch had let her pick up a bow maybe once just to play around with it a little bit, maybe this wouldn't have fucking happened. But, it's fine. I'm not going to harp on it. It's fine.
I like this anger towards Haymitch that you've got going on. This is fun. So she finally does practice and gets it enough that she's really nailing it and does like a fucking forward roll and a shot. And
she's showing off,
feeling herself. Yeah.
And these motherfuckers
but she looks up and
even looking.
Yeah. So she loses her temper a little bit.
And
she just shoots the apple in the pig's mouth, which we later find out results in one of the gentlemen there falling backward into a punch bowl.
That is delightful.
Amazing. I love it so much. And without being dismissed, without any, she just says, "Thank you for your consideration," and bows and leaves. And she, as soon as she's out the door, is like, what the fuck did I just do? Oh my God.
The fuck out. She has a complete meltdown and she was right to do it because I was like, ooh, girl. I mean, I just met these people. I don't really know what all, tickles their fancy. So I wasn't exactly sure how this was going to go. I didn't think it was going to go nearly as bad as what she was imagining, but I wasn't sure how it was going to go. But she is imagining all of the absolute worst case scenarios. She's thinking they're going back to District 12. They're going to snatch her mom up, throw Prim in like a community house. She's going to be like an Avox. They're going to cut her tongue out. All of the terrible things are going to happen, and they're going to happen soon.
Yes. So personally, again, hearkening back to my first reading, I was not concerned. I was very much like, oh, you're going to get a great score because you were gutsy and they like it, which is exactly what happens.
The entertainment. I don't even know if they appreciated her guts, but I feel like it was like something that got their attention and made them feel something. Much. And that's really what they want, right? These games and all this shit, they want to feel something, right? And if you can do that, if you can make them feel something, then you fucking won. You're on your way to winning at least, and she did. She got their heart rate up. They were scared for a second. They felt alive for a second. Oh my God, somebody's trying to kill us. But then we're all safe and nothing bad happened. So, you know what I mean? It's like people who like to ride roller coasters, no shade. But yeah.
A little bit of shade.
This is that.
I was viewing it at the time like this is the example that I always go back to because it was my first experience with like being interested in a reality show and starting to understand the way this shit worked. But there is a season of Top Chef where there is this incredible douchebag named Marcel who really should have been cut earlier and makes it so far to the end because he is a douchebag. And it is fun to watch the conflicts that arise because he's an asshole and doesn't care that he's an asshole. It's just not, he will freely admit that he is, and he doesn't care. He wants to win, and that's all there is to it. And while you hate him, there is an entertainment factor there. And so the way that I saw this was they're looking for a Marcel type. Somebody that's going to be the conflict if they can't create enough conflict with the way the show actually works, like naturally, you know? And I just, again, with just sort of I'm used to some of the YA tropes of like, oh, you do something and you think it's bad, but then you wind up like low-key rewarded for it. Like in Harry Potter, when he steals a broom and is like out here flying around the way that he shouldn't be, but then he winds up like with a top spot on the Quidditch team because he's a seeker, you know, like that kind of thing. So part of me here again got so impatient with her because she's imagining all of these fucking scenarios and I'm like, ugh, none of this is going to happen, Katniss. Stop it. You're ridiculous. But like, I should have taken it more seriously. Haymitch and Effie are both horrified, and like, there's a low-key sense of, well, I'm washing my hands on you now, I guess. Like, you know, who knows what's going to happen, but it's not going to be great.
The only solace that they provided to her was, well, it's too late to replace you, so you probably won't get kicked out of the games, but they're absolutely going to make your whole time here living hell.
Right.
Basically, they're going to hate, like, they can't send her home or anywhere else because they need her to participate, but they can do things like make sure she doesn't get the weapon that she excels at, right?
Right.
So I was like, all right, well, that feels like she can still be the heroine of the book because I know she's not going home and I know they're not killing her, right? But that felt like, oh, that could be a thing.
Yeah.
Shit. That could be a fucking thing. They still need a girl tribute, so they won't punish me publicly. Oh no, but they can punish me. They'll do it publicly. Is what she's thinking to herself. They're gonna, you know, but then she takes it like a little too far because she's like, they'll have me in the arena, but they'll sick wild animals on me. See, we're back to bears.
Oh, the bears.
The bears.
But who knows? Maybe they'll have overheard her bear story to
right?
to PETA and just be like, ooh, you know what? That's not a bad idea. Let's get some bears in this piece.
Also, every time I say PETA, how did you guys move past that?
Yeah, it's tough.
It's tough, right?
It feels really like, I don't know. It's pointed.
Is it?
It feels like a Dickens sort of name. Like, you know what we'll name the baker's son? Bread. Like, you know.
Oh my god.
It's like basically.
Like, it's funny because
I'm not mad at it, but also like, oh, all right, we get it.
I need to just tell you all that is not what I meant.
Oh.
So that laugh, I had not made the connection to pita bread.
Pita bread?
Until just now. Until you said it. I was just
I'm so sorry for putting that in your head.
Yeah, right. That was, I wasn't thinking that at all.
Oh dear.
I was talking about the organization and saying his name and then thinking of that.
Wait, what?
PETA, the fucking animal John, right?
Oh, the animal rights activist. Oh, I didn't think about that at all.
Right. But the bread thing is really fucking funny.
Oh man.
Oh goodness
I didn't
gracious.
even think of the animal rights thing. I should have though.
Oh my god. I didn't think of the fucking bread thing and totally should have. So we're fair. Fucking even Stevens.
Let's see. Okay, so there's a whole thing with her just like in her room sobbing, and it seems like she's finally able to sort of let it out because
Yeah.
there have been a few
Remember
times where she expects to cry and it just can't come.
Yep.
And she like skips meals. Like Haymitch and Effie come to talk to her, and she doesn't even want to see them. But eventually, it's time, and she has to go down there.
Yeah, because they're going to read the scores from this fucking game maker shit. That's part of the televised jam, right, kids? That's part of this whole thing. So, and the way she describes it, you know, I don't watch any of the sports balls, but it's very similar, right? Like the little card with their face spins and pops up on the screen and just got like their stats, believe you know what I mean? So that's what it looked like in my head as we were reading this. And I was just like, oh shit, it's like everybody, I knew that it was going to be public, but the spectacle of shit keeps catching me by surprise. I don't know what I guess of course they're not just going to read it all dry and boring. Nobody's tuning in for that. But I you know, I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting, but for it to be this way, my computer just shut off. That's super weird.
Oh, you're coming through fine on my end.
Yeah. No, it just did this thing like my screen just went all black, which is weird because when I needed to sleep, like sometimes I don't turn it off. I just wanted to sleep. Fucking a cat will sneeze and the screen will light back up. But fucking just now it just went completely black for no reason and like didn't want to wake back up. So, but anyway, so there's no choice but to like sit and wait for your fucking card to spin on screen.
Right.
And I love this. We talk about like the rating scale. And some of the people that you expect, you know, to score, like she says, like the people from the top districts usually score between like the 8 and 10, which is pretty high. I think it's like 1 through 12,
out of
right?
12,
number of people that you have. So, and then we're reminded District 12 usually comes up last. And, oh wait, no, she means they're announced last there, not their scoring is last. So I think she did tell us earlier that they usually score pretty bad.
District 1?
No, District 12. District 12,
okay. I thought you said District 1. Okay, my bad.
No, District 12.
Yeah, definitely.
And so they finally get to her. I think Peter goes first.
Yeah, he gets like a 7, I think, or an 8.
He gets an 8, and they're just like
pretty good.
Yeah, like that's really good, much better than they were expecting. And then she comes up and she gets a fucking 11, an 11, y'all, an 11, and everybody just goes fucking bonkers. It is, you know, everybody's squealing and cheering and congratulating, and the whole crew, I should mention too, is here watching this. So it's not just her and Peter, it's Haymitch, it's Effie, it's Cinna and his assistant, and I don't know, maybe even some more like people that helped Silas and shit. So
I can't get over the fact that like these people are the ones that she keeps on being like, they're just getting me pretty for slaughter. But there is a point before she's gotten her score that she's like, I can't believe that I like wasted all their hard work that they put into making me look nice. And I was just like, girl, it's really not, don't worry about that part. But yes, this is an amazing score. And later on when she's interviewed, she won't say why she got this score.
But she also plays with the game makers too. She's like, I can't tell them, right? And you know, it's just like, yeah, we'll get there, I guess. We're gotta pick up the pace, but yeah. So they're all excited about how great her score was, and then Cinna is just like, you know, your dress, girl, wait till you see it.
Yes.
And I don't know. I'm saying it like that because I feel like that's exactly how he said it. And then, it's the next day, and she talks about, like, I think she has a dream of Gale, or she just wakes up thinking about him.
I think she wakes up thinking about him. Sorry, I've got the hiccups. I don't know.
And
let's see. Stress of the day is worn me out. I drift off, reprieved, relieved, and with the number 11 still flashing behind my eyelids. And yeah, she wakes up and is wondering what Gale is up to.
Oh, right, because it's Sunday. So, yeah, this would be a day that they would go out together, I guess. And we get the story of how they became friends.
Yeah.
Which I thought
enjoy
was
this.
really sweet. Yeah. He's older than her, which I don't know if I picked up or if it just hadn't been mentioned.
I don't think it was mentioned, but I could be wrong.
And she runs into him out in the woods one day, about 6 months since she's been, like, trying to provide for her family. And she finds, like, a bunch of rabbits, I think, just hanging. Yes. And she's just like, look at this shit here. And she's actually interested in the snares because she's been having trouble trying to figure out how to use those. And he catches her. And of course, like a rational human being, assumes that she's there for the rabbits themselves and not the snares, which I thought was really cute. And we find out that he's 14 and that his father also died in the same mine explosion that her father died in. She remembers him being there to get the medal. And they just develop a friendship, but it's slow going, right? It takes time. Yeah. I really like that too, that it's stressed that this is a relationship that grows after spending time with each other. Because basically she's just kind of like, I would like to make you an offer.
Yeah, so they exchange knowledge with each other.
Yeah, they share, like, secrets for, like, trapping and hunting and spots to go, and slowly learn more about each other. And she says at one point that he gave her a sense of security that she'd lacked since her father died. And that how she's better when she's with him. She's a better hunter because she has somebody watching her back and somebody that she could confide in. And, she said something about how when they're on the outside of the fence, she could share things with him that she never could even think about when she's on the inside of the fence. And I love that.
Yeah, she at one point says, like, the word friend is too casual for the way I feel about Gale, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
And I just want to point out that I had said earlier how sure I was about the love triangle thing. She has straight up said, I am not interested in Gale like that. Do you think a bitch gave any shit what Katniss said she was interested in? I absolutely did not believe this. I was just like, oh, whatever. You just say that because you haven't admitted to your feelings, but eventually you will start to be like, ooh, Gale. Like, I just really thought I had it all figured out. I just did not take her seriously. I was just, yeah.
Girl, do you know
all the time
what book you're in? You don't know what book
I did not. I really, really didn't.
I was talking about Katniss. I was
not familiar. Oh, well, I wasn't ready for the book that I was reading, but that's like the whole, that is really, I know how silly that sounds, but that really was my attitude throughout. It's just like, ugh, don't you get how these books work? Stop it. Like, I don't know, kiddos. What can I say? I was.
That's what
I was going to say. I was young. I was not that young. Twilight.
I was also trying to do the math earlier, trying to remember when these books came out and how old you would have been when you read them. And I was doing it, and I'm like, yeah, she wasn't that young.
No,
Was you
I was like
ready?
24. I was like 24 years old, probably. Yeah. Nah, there's no excuse whatsoever.
Oh my God, that's so stupid. And then she says something else about Gail too. She says that first of all, she has this moment of being like she wishes she was here. And then she's like, wait, no. That is
No,
the
I don't.
opposite of what I fucking wish. I would never wish that for him. And then she also realizes that, like, she's like, I can't help comparing Gail and what I'm pretending to have with Peeta, and how I never have to question Gail's motives. But all I can do lately is question Peeta's. And then she's like, but it's not fair to compare them that way. And so once again, we're in her mind, watching her swing wildly back and forth. And she ends this sort of thinking about Gail with saying that Gail and I were thrown together by a mutual need to survive, and Peeta and I know that other survival means our own death. How do you sidestep that? And then there's Effie at the door telling her it's a big, big day because it's interview day. And then after that, we find out from Haymitch when she goes down, and I think Peeta and Effie and Haymitch are already talking. And by the time she gets to the table with her breakfast, they tell her that Peeta has decided to be coached separately from her.
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, the first word of the next chapter is betrayal. And I was like, you know what? Yes. What is this? What is this? What is he doing? What is this? And, you know, I can't help but be very, very concerned here. Now, part of me is like, then this is tainted with what he drops at the end of this chapter, right?
Sure.
But he had said the thing earlier about like wondering, she doesn't know what kind of effect she has on people. And part of me is like, maybe he was worried that he simply could not concentrate and learn what he needed to learn and prepare how he needs to prepare with her around, because he just finds her so distracting and only wants to like see her succeed when he's with her, right? So
okay,
that would be him. That would make his motivation less sinister, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also, he doesn't want her to see what he's learning and what his strengths are and what he can actually do. And that's why he wants to train separately. And that, much more sinister.
Yes.
And
yes.
It could really go either way at this point for me. I have my suspicions of him, but I don't know what this is, you guys. I don't know which it is. Yes, I think that he knows. I don't know. I don't know what to do with this, y'all. I don't know yet. I'm suspicious of him.
Yes, I think that he knows.
But I don't know. I think he says the thing about she doesn't know what kind of effect she has on people. I am curious if he is aware of the effect he has on her.
Ooh. And
if this, again, requesting to train separately is in his mind in service of her. But that's me giving him a lot of benevolent credit that I don't know if he necessarily garners. You know what I mean? I'm really, like, I'm suspicious of him. I'm suspicious of his motives. Let me put it that way.
Sure.
I don't necessarily think that he's a bad guy, right? But because I don't think any of the tributes can be like bad guys in that sense yet, right? Maybe as we get into the games, then I'll start seeing how. But even in the games themselves, I don't know if it's fair to. I don't know how to judge somebody in this situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you
I think
put
that's
people in
very
arena
compassionate.
and say they have to fight to the death. Like, how do I judge what they do to, to survive? But that's a very, like, basic way to look at that. Like, then you get into all kinds of morality discussions and, like, what do you do to survive versus what, you know what I mean? Is it worth surviving if you're willing to do anything, right? Do you deserve to survive if you're willing to do it? Yeah, that's a whole other conversation. But for right now, with Peeta and him choosing to be trained separately, I am really torn between it being some sort of in service to her that he thinks he's doing, or could it really be that he thinks that he needs to train and hide shit from her so he can have the upper hand? And that doesn't feel like the thing to me. So I'm gonna go. That doesn't feel like it. That doesn't feel like what's happening to me just yet. I'm probably wrong, but I don't think this is. I need to hide from her so I can beat her. I'm probably wrong.
I guess we'll see.
People are fucking laughing at my ridiculousness. I can hear it through the internet.
Oh, guys, people. I can't wait to hear what all everybody thinks too, because like we've been getting a lot of feedback on this show. A lot of people have like just come out saying how excited they are that we're covering this and whatnot. And the chat for the spoilers and whatnot on the Discord has been quite active. So I am really looking forward to what people think about Rashawn's interpretations of things in this section, because it all, you will find out fairly soon. Like the games reveal all. And yet,
do they? Because if they did, there wouldn't need to be 2 other books. So they can't reveal all.
So this.
What?
I just said so again. I keep saying it. I need a new transition word. Proximally. No. What's the way to come on? Give me something.
I got
next. We have. How about that? Next we have the sequence of her getting shined up to be put out on the stage.
Yeah.
And this dress weighs a ton because it's covered in jewels, and she has been done up with this immaculate beat. And once they have her like turn and look in the mirror, it's just a moment of just like, oh my God, I don't even recognize myself. I am incredible right now.
I want to just mention, like, before she gets into the dress, which sounds phenomenal, right? And I would love to see that. I don't know if the movie did this dress justice or not, but if it did, I wouldn't be adverse to seeing a screenshot of that. But yeah, the thing with Haymitch, right? So Effie has to like try to train Katniss how to wear a dress in heels, which is like, it seemed painful. The whole thing was painful. And she hikes the dress up, and Effie is just like, oh my God, not above your ankles. Scandalous. But Haymitch is trying to figure out what kind of interview persona she should have. And everything he's throwing at her is fucking wrong. She can't do any of it. Peeta picked up his, he's going to be funny. He picked it. He was a natural. He's self-deprecating. They're going to eat it up. You are sullen and hostile. And he try to be cheery. It doesn't work. Try to be fierce. It doesn't work. None of it works. And he ends up just throwing his hands up in the air. And is like, I don't know what you want from me. Like, And he starts drinking because he gets he's drinking because he fucking drinks, but he's getting more and more irritated and exasperated with her. So he's drinking even more and more. And he ends up saying something. What does he say to her? That it's like, he's like, be likable. or something like
Yes.
that. And he just,
he wants her to charm him.
yep, delight
whole,
me.
like, oh God.
Delight me. Yes.
Agony. Absolute agony. Like, I love how as the longer that this goes on, how much more dire her attempts become, because she's getting so irritated and she just does not know how to mask. She doesn't need to mask.
Not at all.
It's not a thing.
He's like, his last stab is like, all right, well, fucking tell us about your family. Like, tell us about things that you love that make you happy. Maybe the people will connect with you on that. And she's like, fuck no. They already are still in my future. They don't get to fucking eat my past, which is, she doesn't say that, but I feel like that's what it's right? Like, you want me to just like spill all this shit out so you can consume it. And I'm not giving you that.
Yes.
And he's like, all right, well, he calls her, he says you have as much charm as a dead slug. That's what it says. That's what really gets under her skin. Yeah. And he ends up saying, well, maybe you should try to act humble. And she doesn't like that either. It doesn't work. It's just, nothing is working. And
yeah, he wants her to play like the, country mouse. Oh, the big city, it's so beautiful and overwhelming and yada yada. He asks her to gush, and she's just like, oh, the lamb stew is good. Yeah. She manages to do it a lot better later, though.
Yeah, right. And so, yeah, it just goes downhill. And at the end, she's just like, basically, I'm too vulnerable for ferocity. I'm not witty. I'm not funny. I'm not sexy. I'm not mysterious. I'm nobody. I'm nothing at all. And he gives up and says, just answer the questions and try not to let the audience see how openly you despise them. Which, low key, is what they need to see. It's what they should be fucking seeing. And, yeah, so then this is, I think she goes back to her room and smashes every dish that's in the room, just makes a mess.
Yes.
And the red-haired girl comes in, the red-haired Avox girl comes in to, like, turn down the bed and shit, and sees the mess she's made, sees the state that Katniss is in, and she just goes into the room, gets a damp cloth, wipes her face, and then helps her clean. And the whole time Katniss is trying to apologize to her for what happened in the woods that day. And it appears like the girl is telling her, like, no, there was nothing you could have done. They would have just killed you. And then we go to the next morning where she gets all done up and gets in her bejeweled gown. And Cinna is actually the MVP. Because the advice he gives is that she should just be herself, but be the self she is when she's with somebody that she considers a friend.
Yes.
And
I love that advice.
It's really the best advice, I think, for any kind of situation like this, right? Like, I'm trying to think, like, maybe next time I'll try to remember this. And first she thinks, well, Gale. But then that doesn't make sense because she's like, I wouldn't have to tell Gale that stuff. He knows me already, so that doesn't work. And Cinna's like, well, what about me? Could you think of me as a friend? And she's like, you know what? Yeah, at least of all the people I've met since I've left home, he's like my favorite. And it turns out he's going to be right, not just in the audience, y'all, but like in the front row, like right there. So she'll be able to look dead in his face and like make eye contact and have a connection with him.
Yes.
And
it works like a charm, it seems, once we get there. Yeah.
Yeah, she goes through a moment of like intense stage fright. But, and then there's the waiting. This part is really what's going to get to me. And I guess once we get to the games, it won't matter. But all of this, them being last for everything, that wears you down.
It's really, the dread that she builds is very, very effective. Yeah, this there's a whole, like, just her spiraling, as you have put it before. She really manages to like get in her own head about stuff in a way that is like just very unhelpful. It's unhelpful.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
I love
how much of this
oh
is her going last, so because she's in 12, so she gets to watch everybody else nailing it
mm-hmm.
and just be like, oh, I'm gonna seem like such a fucking dead weight by the time they get to me. Like,
Yep,
the audience
yep.
is gonna be bored as
Yeah.
well.
And you know, and she's got evidence of that because of what happened with the game makers. So, you know, one of the things they tell you when you start to spiral out is you're supposed to look for evidence for or against whatever it is you're worried about. Well, she's got evidence that yes, going
Yes.
last, people are fucking bored and disinterested and not engaged anymore. And then fucking one of them, Hamish or Effie, at the last minute is like, "And remember, you're still a fucking happy pair, right?" And so she's like, "What the fuck? I thought that we were done that now. Oh, so we still have to pretend though in public, even though in private we're not even pretending anymore." Which is also not like the last thing you want on your mind before you're about to do something like this.
That's true. Yes. Yeah. So she goes out there and we get our introduction to Caesar, who
His last name is Flickerman. He's
Flickerman.
a 40-year-old TV host on a box that flickers, and his name is Flickerman.
Listen,
come on now.
I'm saying it's we got a little Dickensian with the names. This will not be the last. You will see. It's either like real Dickensian or Roman as hell.
Goodness.
But yeah, what she says about him is like that he always tries to paint the tributes in the best light possible. Like he is attempting to do everybody a favor by getting them to be appealing enough for sponsors. And he's very good at playing up bad jokes to be actually funny because of his overreactions. And that is shown to us immediately when he asks what her favorite thing is about the Capitol, and she says the lamb stew, and he just turns it into a whole bit. And it sets her at ease, not only how he's able to like sort of create the energy that she can't bring, but also that she is getting positive reinforcement from the crowd, which is encouraging and gets her to sort of play into stuff a lot.
Yep.
So
we see him with the little girl, whose name?
Rue.
Yes, thank you. And how sweet he is with her. She's adorable here too. If they can't catch me, they can't kill me. So don't count me out.
I'm
so
very
cute.
difficult to catch.
But yeah, so when it's God damn it, does Peter or Katniss go first? No, Katniss goes first.
Katniss goes first.
It ends on Peter's interview, right? So yeah, it's finally her turn, and yeah, she makes the thing about the lamb stew. Oh. And then he says, is this when he asked her about how her score was so high?
Yes. Yeah, and she does a little joking with the judges and says, I can't tell you, but I can at least say that I think it was a first, and they nod vigorously.
Right.
Very serious and fun. And he does the whole, oh, the agony, you have to tell us. Like,
right.
It's really, just chewing that scenery.
Yeah, the guy that yells that she's not allowed to tell the whole story turns out to be the guy who fell in the punch bowl.
Yes.
Which I thought was really funny. And then they ask her about her sister. And wants to get to like the sob story. And in her head she thinks, because he's like, can you tell us about it or tell us about her or something? And she's like, in her head, no, I can't. But maybe I can tell Senna. And she says, I don't think I'm imagining the sadness on his face. And so that makes us like think that like Senna is sitting in the audience looking at her with like, at least she feels like sincere sadness that this is a thing she had to do. Which I imagine every other face is got like oh, how sad for you, but not
Yeah.
really how sad for you.
Mhm.
You know that kind of difference.
The sad that's like, oh, it's so sad for you, and I'm eating it up because, again, the drama.
Exactly. And I'm just here to eat. I'm just here to consume. I'm not really
Mhm.
really giving a fuck about anything you're really going through. So she tells everybody about Prim, and she says that she's just 12 and I love her more than anything. And Caesar asks her, what did she say to you after you volunteered? And she thinks to herself, be honest. I gotta be honest. I gotta be honest. So she does. She tells the audience, she asked me to try really hard to win. And the audience is just fucking like enraptured.
Mhm.
They're like, yes, this is what we came to see, you know? Oh, it's so gross.
It's so gross. But she plays it like pretty well considering how poorly it went in her rehearsals. And then she walks off the stage in a bit of a daze. She is just able to tell that Peeta is killing it because he is just, he's a performer. Like, you know, he's just very, very good at leaning into the jokes and stuff the way that Caesar does. So they work off one another really well.
Yeah. And considering what we know about Peeta's home life, you know, the more little insights we get, it's not surprising that he is a good liar and B, a performer, and you know, and knows how to read. That's the other thing too is, you know, if you are someone who's living in that type of situation, you know, you become like sort of like we talk about being hyper vigilant. And also constantly being aware where the people around us are, not just physically, but like where they are, like emotionally and mentally, like in reading them, because that's a way to protect yourself. So it is not surprising that Peeta is very good at reading people, which is what makes me, which was what I had in mind when I was talking about why he would decide to train separately. And it also that he's a performer, self-deprecating humor, to like take a person who might be abusing you kind of like off their game a little bit when you know what I mean? Like it is a way, it's a tool that you
cut
can
them
use.
off at the knees before they can do the thing. You've leaned into it.
Right. So so it's not surprising that he's so good at all of this and is doing so well on stage here. I love too that she says that he is playing up the whole Baker's son bit and tells a funny story about Capitol Showers, which is really funny because she also has a funny story about Capitol Showers, right? She could have fucking told that story, but she couldn't because that's not her. That's not her jam, right? But yeah. And then you guys, he asked Peeta if he has a girlfriend.
Yeah, Peeta's real cagey. He gives an unconvincing shake of his head.
Is this Haymitch? Is this like all just like a work, you know, like a wrestling fucking gimmick, you know, where it's like, yeah, go out and tell everybody that you know, that you have a crush on her. Because then that would also be like, because the thing too is like, I don't know if people really give a fuck. And by people, I mean like the other tributes and whoever else is milling around. But if this whole show of them being together, right? And and Katniss is not a very good performer. And so it doesn't look real. A good way to spin that is, well, I like her, but she doesn't know I like her. And that explains why it doesn't look like she's really that into me. You know what I mean? If I were like trying to spin a thing. I don't know. It just popped in my head just now. So it's not a fully fleshed out theory, you guys. I'm just saying. I don't know.
Question. How much does it matter to you if it's real or not?
I would prefer for it not to be real.
Okay.
Just as a storytelling, like if I had a choice, because I am and I feel like I say this all the time, and then maybe I end up walking it back, but I never go into a story being particularly interested in the love angle.
Same.
It's not anything I'm ever really looking for.
The exception being like my era of Twilight, which was when I was about
to say, well, you just said same, and I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. But okay, that was a one-off. That was a dark time in your life.
It was just really, you guys. Shit had me in a chokehold. Foot on my neck.
Oh my God, that's so funny because I completely missed all of this. You guys know I missed all of this. All of it, from Harry Potter to Twilight to Hunger Games. I fucking did not read and didn't know anything about any of this shit whatsoever. Could not have been further off my radar. That's so funny to me. But but yeah, so I tend to go into things not having any interest in being a love triangle or a romance or anything. And then if it shows up in the story, if it's done well, I'll be like, oh shit, word, I didn't even know I wanted that. For instance, we just did Ray Bear, which not enough of y'all listen to, and y'all need to go back and listen to it, and you need to go read those books. They're so fucking good. They're so fucking good. But there turned out to be a little coupling in that book that I wasn't looking for. And then I was like, oh shit, here we go. Mm-hmm. So anyway, right now, I would prefer for this to be a work and that there's not really a romantic thing happening with Peeta.
Okay.
Because I'm just not interested. Right. Not interested in that book. But if we get that book and it's good, I'll be into it. So guys, don't be worried that I'll hate it if it ends up being a thing. You know, if it's done well. That's
exactly the way that I tend to approach things. I'm just like, look, if it's well done, I won't be able to resist. But it's just most of the time, romance is not well done. So
it's so true. It is.
It's so done. True. It's like used as a lazy device, and I get very impatient with it.
She did it so well at Ray Bear.
Yeah, she did.
She really did. Well. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, there's this one girl. I've had a crush on her ever since I can remember, but I'm pretty sure she didn't know I was alive until the reaping. And then the crowd goes, "Aww." And then Caesar says, "Oh, does she have another fella?" Well, I don't know, but a lot of boys like her. Do they, Peeta? Do a lot of boys like her? Because I hadn't heard. And then finally, I don't think it's going to work out if I win. Winning won't help my case. Why ever not? Caesar's ass. And then Peeta manages to blush beet red. And I say manages because I'm trying to imply that this shit is fake.
Right.
And which is weird because can you blush? Can you just, I guess you can. There are actors, right? Do actors really blush?
I have heard of actors being able to do that, but you know, I have never noticed myself while watching something that somebody is actually blushing.
I know the face expression of blushing, but the actual phenomenon of your cheeks reddening,
right?
I don't think they're doing that. I don't think people, but some people can do that. That's weird.
I think they can because the way that some people act is they actually put themselves mentally into that situation, so they're actually feeling that embarrassment. You know,
right. Well, Peeta is method acting. He's one of his Daniel Day-Lewis. Blushes beet red and stammers out because she came here with me. And then it has the audacity to be the end of the chapters for this week.
So what do you think Katniss's reaction is going to be to this?
I think she's going to be, well, you know what? She's so funny. She's going to, first of all, she's going to be all the things at the same time because that's how her brain works. So there's that.
That's true.
She's going to be shocked. She's going to be suspicious. Then she's going to start doubting herself and wondering if maybe he's being sincere because she thinks that she can still spot when he's being sincere. Like when they had that conversation about over the roll, right? She could see the pain in his eyes and she knew he was telling the truth about his mother saying that to him. So it will be, I'm curious whether she will try to whether she will believe that this is sincere. whether she'll convince herself that she knows it's true, because she can read him, she thinks. And then she'll go back to being suspicious and think that it's all a plot. That's how I think it's going to play out.
So you feel like it's going to end on her deciding it's a plot?
I don't know if it'll end there. I just know that she's going to bounce back and forth between them. I don't know where she'll end.
Okay, so you don't have a prediction on where she lands?
No, she doesn't land. She never lands anywhere. She hasn't landed anywhere so far. She's convinced that, he's plotting against her, and she's suspicious of everything he does. But then she keeps having these moments of connection with him. And then she goes back to being like, oh, well, I have to keep him at arm's length because we're going to fight to the death. She's just all over the place. I can't predict what this bitch going to do or think.
Well. I guess we'll have to wait and see. She's all over the place. Well,
she is.
I'm going to say hi to new patrons because I haven't said hi to new patrons since we started this show. So this is a first for the Hunger Games. We have Joe Clinict, Emily Arnold, Eponamunches,
okay.
Ann Metz, and Miles Schneiderman.
Oh,
yay! So, welcome to all of you. Thank you all so much for becoming patrons. If you would like to become a patron yourself, you can do so and be a free patron and just get the updates that I post publicly on the Patreon feed at patreon.com/unspoiled, or you can financially support the show, which is hugely appreciated as bitches are broke. So we always appreciate your dollars. Helps us buy books and pay for site hosting and all kinds of very uninteresting financials. But yeah, patreon.com/unspoiled. I hope that everybody's been enjoying the content, and I am really excited for what lies ahead. I'm so excited. Don't forget to join the Discord if you want to talk spoilers. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Are you coming to the tree? They strung up a man, they say he murdered three. Strange things that happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where dead man called out for his love to flee? Strange things that happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.